Welcome back, guys. It's nasty. Got some nasty weather going on outside. So we're back here in the bunker. Got a fire going. And we're back on the Smithy project. This will be the part 2 video. We're going to attempt to get all this crossfeed table put back together. We got some new parts that need to go in it. A few things to fix. We were missing some screws and needed a couple new bearings for the handle and things like that. So I'm going to set you up here and walk you through what it takes to put all this back together and get it hopefully properly functioning. And if you caught part 1 of the video, we took it all apart. I didn't get a lot of it on camera, but I think I did a pretty good job of explaining how it all came apart. It's really pretty simple to take apart. There's not a lot to it. So I'll set you guys up here where you can see, and we'll get started. You can see right there, there's one of the bearings that came out of it that was no good. First thing we're going to do, we're going to slide this table here back on top of the gearbox. We've got 2 dowel pins and 4 machine screws that hold this in place. We'll see if we can get these screws started, and then drop the dowel pins in their holes. I cleaned all these parts up prior to this video. So these actually seem like maybe they're a tapered pin. Let's just find out. They've got a little more chamfer on this end here than they do on this end, it seems like, but I believe they're tapered. .236 on that end, and 260, 266. I hope you guys can see that. My screen went off on my GoPro. So, that being said, I'm not sure. I didn't pay attention when I took it apart. Let's back these back out. Put my calipers away. Let's back these bolts back out. You all are along for the ride, whether this goes good or not. I'll throw it up on YouTube, and you can either watch me succeed or you can watch me fail. We'll learn something either way. Pop these screws, these bolts back out of here. We'll see if that bigger end, slide this back just a little bit there. We'll see if that bigger end, it does not fit. So they go in. Make note, if you take one of these apart, these go in small end down, which is kind of what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that I got it back together right. So we'll do this again. So I've just get a couple of these started. That way hopefully our pins will fall right in the hole. They should just push in with your finger. Shouldn't have to, if you have to tap them in with a hammer, chances are they're probably not lined up right. We'll take this, use this wrench right here. Just barely bump that down. Same thing on that one. Just to make sure that they're flush. You don't want them sticking up. You can take, this is one of the wear plates, you can take, and just make sure that nothing will catch on them, because this top piece of the table does have to slide here. So let's get these other bolts here tightened up. Now we're attached back to the gearbox. We need to work this as far as we can this way and put our wear plate, adjustment plate, whatever you want to call it. It goes back in there just like so, and it will, hopefully we can slide it in. I believe that's how it goes. It's about the only, yeah, okay. Well, no, I was wrong. It goes just like this. See, I told you we'd learn something. That slides in. Like that. Now, we have two of these angled dowels, I guess you could call them. The longer one of the two will go, probably can't see it very well from that angle. Let me get you guys where I can see better, or where you can see better. So right here in the back, we've got 3 set screws. The outer 2 have jam nuts. The center one fits inside the hole. This angled dowel will fit in that hole where that screw is. So we need to take that set screw out and put this angled dowel in there. I'll set you guys back up over here. Kind of see what's going on. There we go. Find the right. I believe that's it. So we'll take that. There's that set screw for you to see. Angled dowel will go in just like this. Put the set screw back in. These, you want to make sure and hold and keep that wear plate from falling down until you get these tightened up. What this does, it pushes that over, and we'll adjust this when we get all finished. Need a smaller, I believe it's this one. Tighten these up, and that sets your lash on the table. You don't want them too tight. You want to take any twist out of it that you can get, but you still want to be able to move it forward and back freely with minimal effort. See there, it found a happy spot. Some of this I'm going to have to clean the bed, the bottom side of the bed here and the top side, because it's got a little surface rust from sitting. I'll make sure it's pushed all the way up. those set screws in place. Okay, we got a little bit of play there, but that's going to be fine until we get that bed cleaned up and smoothed out. It needs some real fine grit sandpaper or a scuff pad, and a little bit of kerosene works really good. You could use diesel fuel, something like that that's got some lubricity. Okay, now we've cleaned all this prior to starting the video. So now we need to, the first thing we need to do is thread our crossfeed rod into this brass block. And just as it starts to come out the other side, we have this piece that's also threaded. Now this, you want to hold that against the back side and thread into it also. Now we've got something in a bind here. Okay, so let's get our threads coming out. There we go. And you'll notice, let me zoom you guys in just a little bit. Boy, it's too strong of a magnet on this GoPro. We've got bearings and everything else sticking to the bottom of it. So you'll notice that you've got a gap, and that's about, oh, probably between a 1/16 and an 1/8 of an inch. But you need that gap, and that's how you set the, lash on this, your crossfeed rod is what I'm going to call it. Crossfeed screw. And that lets you adjust the amount of motion that the table has this way. You want to take all of that extra movement out. So this is where we were missing pieces. If you caught the other video, you saw that. There's 2 screws. I picked up some screws, just some machine screws at the local hardware store. I believe these will be got a whole handful here. These will be the longer ones. So they go in just like this. And what that does is it clamps this threaded piece and this threaded piece and just puts pressure on the threads to take any slop that there is in the threading out. So we were missing that. I need to find an Allen wrench to fit these. Allen wrench, hex key, whatever you want to call it. So we'll slide this one in down here at the bottom. It's a little bit tricky. Reach in there. For now, we're just going to snug those up, just barely finger tight until we get this table on. And let's put these screws, the rest of these, somewhere where we're not going to lose them. Wish I had my little, got a little magnet tray around here somewhere. Okay, now that we've got that reassembled, we're ready to slide this table on. And it's a little bit heavy. You notice on the bottom of it, hopefully you can see, there's a spot for the end of this rod to fit in. So the table goes on this way. Hopefully I've scooted this back out away from the wall enough. Sorry about that, guys. I had to change my GoPro battery. Started telling me it was dead. So table's back on. We need to get our wear plate slid in. We'll see if we can get it. We may, yep, looks like we're going to. we are going to have to back these screws out. I figured we would. So let's see, that'll be this Allen wrench. Back the nuts off. Oh, that one's a different size. I have a feeling somebody has replaced some of these at one time. I'm gonna have to find another wrench. It looks to be about 15 millimeters. Got a 14 here and a 15. 14. Got wrenches, stuff everywhere. So we're gonna just go ahead and back these on out. We're gonna reset all of this when it gets put together. Completely put together, I should say. That should, right there, get us cleared. Back this one out about the same. Back this one out about the same. We've got the same thing. We've got one set screw that goes down inside a hole in the center. We need to take it all the way out. Take it all the way out, stick it down here on the bottom of my GoPro. Now, like I said, this has all been cleaned up. Really, if we wanted to get good tight tolerances, you can take these and use a really fine grit sandpaper and wet sand them. And once you've wet sanded it, you can buff it and do the same thing on the part of the table that it rubs against, and get a tighter tolerance. Let me see if I can find a marker. I don't think I have one here. I don't even think I have a pencil. I would like to be able to scribe on top of this. Right there. So that we can line that mark up with our set screw. Let's go ahead and ease. Excuse me. Go ahead and ease these set screws back in just so we feel them hit. Feel them touch, and that's where we stop. This one here on the end, for some reason, is a little bit stiff. It's not sure if the threads are a little bit boogered, or somebody might have cross-threaded it at one time. Go ahead and get these snugged up. So far, yep, table will slide. Most of the slop is, if you can see that, that's in the bed. All right, so we've got our other little wedge piece, which is shorter. It's got some wear on it for some reason. I'm not sure why. Put that in backwards See if I can ease it back out here. Naturally, I said we'd learn something on this. Learned it takes doing everything twice. I really don't want to. Oh, now we've done it. Get this other little magnet I got here. I bet we can get it out. There it is. This one goes in like so. You can see that. This camera's a little hard to work around. It goes in long side to the top. To match up right. So we put it in. Put our set screw back in behind it. Tighten that mess all back up. Okay. Now, we'll center that table up. I need to bring you guys over here somehow. Let me figure out another mount and we'll get to working on this handle. All right, now I've got you stuck in the top drawer here, and we'll see. We're going to get all this reassembled here with our handle on and our piece here. So here's our new bearings we got. They're an NSK bearing, which is a Japanese bearing. Not, I mean, this should be pretty good quality. They're kind of an oddball thrust bearing. They actually, you can see they come apart. They're in 3 pieces. So we put one bearing on here, and I may have to find something. I may have to find a little piece of sandpaper or something. That shaft's scarred up pretty good. There we go. Okay. So we put that on. It goes on first. That's the first bearing. And then we put our cap on. And this whole deal, we're going to slide. We're going to spin this in to get it where we need it. It's got 2 dowels that line up in holes in that table. We're going to spin it on in like so. Two screws, machine screws I should say, bolts, whatever you want to call them. One in this side, one in this side. Zip them on in real quick. Our Allen key here. We can go ahead and tighten these up. Okay. Get our second bearing here. Tape off. These are a little tricky to get out of the package. That one should fit right in there. Now, this is if you can't tell, we've got a keyed shaft key. It fits right down in there. Little tap tap. I'd recommend a brass hammer, not your wrench. That's what I have laying here. I haven't got all my tools moved in here yet, so a lot of my hammers and stuff are still over at my shop. Then we've got our scale dial. It slides on next, and it is keyed. You have to line the key up with the slot. And a handle. Same thing, it fits on the key. You gotta line it up. And then got an acorn nut that fits on the end of the handle. If I remember right, it was a 17 millimeter because that's what I've got out here. Tighten it up. Now, big question is, did we take the left-right slop out of it? It's better. Now, we need to run this table all the way out towards us here. And this will all free up. We're going to lube everything up really good here in just a few minutes. We're going to go around over here to the back side. I'll kind of angle you where maybe you can see. Oh yeah. And you can reach in here and tighten those screws that we put in. To take some of this. And that took all the slop out of it. Or just about all the slop. Let's get it out. We need a smaller wrench. If you remember, on the bottom side of this table, there's a piece that holds the end of this threaded shaft. So what I'm doing now, I'm just going to pull this table back to me just a little bit. Back this shaft out just a hair so I can get in there, and I guess that's an 11 millimeter. And we're going to take this end piece off so that we can reach those adjustment screws. I may end up taking more of this apart than I really want to. I'm going to slide this table back off here. I'll catch up with you in a minute, guys. Okay. Y'all are shaking all over the place here. There's the stop that I took off the bottom side of this table, right down here. So now I'm going to reach in here. It's all out in the open. And I'm going to tighten these screws up. This go in the brass piece. I'm going to slide the table back a little bit. I'm going to temporarily slip my key back in this shaft. And there's my handle. I got pieces and parts scattered everywhere. We're going to slip the handle on, because if we get this too tight, it's going to be stiff to turn, which it's a little bit stiff right now. So we're going to slide this table back where we can see what we're doing. Back these off just a hair. And I really probably should have put some Loctite on these so that they would stay. And it's just the slightest amount that you have to turn these. While we're here, I got an oil can. This has just a little bit of lightweight hydraulic fluid. We're going to put just a little bit on those threads and down in that gap in between the two blocks. And that should help lube us up. I'm going to tighten these just a touch more. And when I say just a touch, I mean just a touch. Just a hair. Okay, now we can slide this table on back where we can get to this stop here. We'll thread it back in. Tighten it back up. Put all this back together like we did a minute ago. We probably should have ground the sides of this a little bit. If you just grind a small notch in both sides, you would be able to reach with this stop in place to adjust those two little bolts to set the lash on the threads. So if you have yours apart and you're working on this, that's something to keep in mind to make this process a little bit easier. Okay, well, I'm going to leave this a little bit loose. We're going to slide this table back in place. Make sure it lines up, which it does not. So we need to turn it just a little bit there. Now we're in place. Slide it where it lines up. Tighten this bolt on down. Now we can come back around to this end. And go back to putting this back together like we did the first time. Let me get that done and I'll catch you back up. Okay, got all this back together. It's just a touch tight for my liking, but I'm thinking those screws will probably back off and that brass will wear a little bit, and it should wear in just fine. It's a little bit stiff to crank along at a good clip, but I really think it'll loosen up. At least I'm hoping it will. So we're going to get this all the way out towards us here. Come on, I know you're almost there. And what I'm going to do, there's the end. I'm gonna take you guys with me here. Straighten you up. You're all kinds of goofy here. Right back in there is what I was adjusting, and that's the piece that I took off and put back on. So let's see. I'll take a little more of my oil. I'll put it right there in those grooves. Same thing on this side. I want to oil that up real good. Now we're going to run this table all the way the other way. It's already loosening up. You can hear it thumping where I haven't got it adjusted tight enough on the bed yet. Well, I was hoping I could get in there and put some oil on this end, but it won't move quite far enough. We'll bring it back this way. It's tighter one direction than it is the other. I haven't quite figured that out yet. It's tighter pulling than it is pushing. All these little, let me get two hands here where I can point. All these little deals right here, those are made to take oil. And they're all over the whole machine. There's another one right there. Those need to be oiled frequently to help this stuff, to keep it from wearing out. And I'm sure there's a special tool to do that with that I probably don't have. I want to see if we can't reach up in there and put just a little oil up in there. That should help it a little bit. I wish it would loosen up coming back a little bit. I'm going to set you guys down here. Sticking to everything. Let you watch this. I'm going to run it out towards me here. Okay, I'm gonna go back around the back side here. See where I've got you. Oh yeah, you can see just fine. And we're gonna investigate why this is not doing what it's supposed to, quite what it's supposed to do. I'm gonna back these set screws back off just a hair. And I'm sorry if my head gets in the way. I've got to be able to get back here and see what's going on. We're just going to tighten those. Come over here. You guys can hear that, can't you? Oh yeah. It's still got some slop. We're going to kind of work it in. Work our set screws in. Get this middle one in also. We're going to do it again. Move this carriage back and forth a little bit. We'll put a little oil here on the bed next to it. Both sides. Work it left and right. See how that. Okay, we're going to leave it alone for now. I'm going to run this back in just a hair. About halfway or so. Oh man, that's so much better. We took all that. It had, if I measured right, I think it had 40 or 50 thousandths of motion. Move you guys a little bit. Had 40 or 50 thousandths of motion this way without ever touching the wheel, that's terrible for machine work. Things get wallered around, pieces get wallered out. It just doesn't work. So now what we're going to do, it's got just probably maybe just a few thousandths. Just enough I can barely see it in the seam back here of movement this way between the carriage and the crossfeed bed. So that means these set screws here on the back, I'll bring you guys over here. Should have put you over here in the first place. Yeah, let's see where you're looking. Okay, these 4 screws here, we're going to ease these jam nuts back in. Lock nuts, whatever you want to call them. And we're just going to check each one of these. That one was a little bit loose. This one was a little loose. That one was pretty good. That one was just a little loose. Run this table back towards me over here, and it's loosening up and working better. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take my oil can and I'm going to oil close the roller first so we can get oil in it. I'm going to oil all of this up in here, under the underside of this table. And it's dripping down and it's making a mess, but we'll clean it up later. Now we'll work this table back and forth a couple times. Oh yeah, it's getting a lot better. There's no way to describe to you guys how much different it is, but running it in this way, I could almost do it with one finger. Now coming back to me is a little different. It's pretty stiff. It takes some effort, but it's getting better. And the farther it gets to me, the better it gets. And that could be some of this adjustment. It could be the way where it's putting pressure. I'm not sure. That's above my pay grade. I just know how it all came apart, and I know I put it back together the same way. So we've taken all of what I call the in and out play. I'm not sure. I'm not up and up on lathe terminology. Which axis is X, which axis is Y. I'm not a machinist. I don't claim to be, never done it, but we're learning here together. So everything's pretty well back together now and adjusted. The only thing that I haven't done is these little pieces here. They fit on the carriage like so, and they work as a wiper. All they do is wipe them, whatever millings get on the bed, on the rails, and they keep them clean and lubricated. And there's two for this side, two for this side. And that's the only thing I have left to put on. So I think this went fairly well. Everything, it seems to be a lot better than it was when I took it apart. I mean, a lot better. If you caught that first video, if I remember right, it's been a few weeks since I filmed it, but I believe I showed it pretty good on that first video of how bad it actually moved around. The whole carriage, I mean, it moved left and right, a lot. And there's still play in this bottom portion, but to fix that, and it's pretty stiff, but it'll loosen up, and the way it drives, it's going to be stiff. It's gear driven. To fix that, I'm going to have to pull this gearbox apart and replace a shaft in there that has a keyway that's wallered out, and it's letting gears slip back and forth on the shaft. And I will do that eventually, and I'll make sure and get a video of it and put that up for you guys to see, so that you can see how that gearbox all comes apart. But for what I'm going to use this lathe for in the next couple months, that's not a big deal to me. I can kind of just, it doesn't actually move around, it's just slop in the handle. So I can deal with it pretty easily. It's not a big issue to me, and it would really probably help if I'd tighten that up just a little. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helped somebody. I learned this as I went, and from what I could find, there wasn't a whole lot on YouTube actually showing these being disassembled and reassembled. So hopefully it helps the next guy that ends up with one, and can help somebody like me learn to become a machinist. So the only other things I'm going to do before I actually start using this, and I plan to make a video of the first piece that I chuck up in it and turn on the lathe. So stay tuned for that. I'll try and put all these videos in a playlist on my channel so that you guys can find them easy, and I'll title them so that they're easy to find. But I plan on videoing that. It'll be on another video. I am going to take and clean this bed up and the rails and stuff to try and get everything just as close as I can get it within reason. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this helped you. Leave me some comments if anybody has any suggestions of what I can do different on this, or tips and tricks. It'd all be much appreciated. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.